In ancient Egypt, servants were smeared with honey to attract flies away from the pharaoh. That's so dumb. Why not just put the honey on a statue or something? I mean, you'd still need servants to carry the statue around, so just skip the middleman. I'm imagining this was for when they were out and about. Just think of all the honey trapmen you would have put out of a job. There used to be bread stamps, burned into a cooked loaf of bread, to avoid bread fraud. As the government supplied the wheat/flour, but some bakers tried to use sawdust and other ingredients in the bread to make the wheat last longer. The bread stamps were baker specific, so they could track down where any tainted bread came from. If they were caught, they had to move to another town to make bread, or wait 3 years to continue making bread. If I remember correctly, bread laws were huge throughout most of history. Nowadays, the idea of the government so strictly regulating an industry that they are forced to sell at a certain price seems odd. But in a time when food shortages were always a danger and food reserves were slim, bread becomes a very important commodity. It's how the Roman emperors kept Rome quiet despite the fact it was such an absurdly huge city. Literally bread and circuses. Free bread, free water, and free entertainment. 1904 Olympic Marathon in St. Louis. The number 1 finisher drove most of the race. He started the race, got tired and heat exhausted and wanted to drop out. He got in a car to DQ himself and head back to the stadium, but along the way realized he was near the finish line and got out to claim the glory. The number 2 finisher was carried across the finish line by his trainers. On a bogus pseudoscience theory, the trainers had been giving him a mixture of brandy, egg whites, and rat poison instead of water. When it came out that the number 1 finisher had driven most of the course, this guy was given the gold despite the help from his trainers to finish. For some reason, the number 3 finisher was just a regular guy who did nothing unusual. In this case, ordinary was extraordinary. The number 4 finisher was a Cuban mailman, who had raised the money to attend the Olympics by running around his entire country and asking for donations. When he landed in New Orleans, he lost all the money gambling. He managed to scrounge enough to get to St. Louis and attend the Olympics. However, he had no money for athletic gear, so he ran in dress shoes and pants hacked off at the knee by a fellow racer who happened to have a knife. He probably would have come in first had it not been for the hour-long nap he took on the side of the road after eating rotten apples he found at an orchard near the course. The number 9 and number 12 finishers were from South Africa, and ran barefoot. South Africa didn't actually send a delegation, these were students who just happened to be in town and thought it sounded fun. Number 9 was chased a mile off course by angry dogs. Half the participants had never raced competitively before. Some died. St. Louis only had 1 water stop on the entire run. This, coupled with the dusty road, and exacerbated by the cars kicking up dust, led to several fatalities. The Russian delegation arrived a week late because they were still using the Julian calendar until 1918, while effectively the rest of the world had switched to the Gregorian calendar. Thomas Jefferson and John Adams died on the same day. July 4, 1826. The 50th anniversary of them both signing the Declaration of Independence. Adams's last words were, "Thomas Jefferson survives." He was wrong by about 5 hours. Montenegro technically was in war with Japan for 101 years and they signed a peace treaty in 2006. Montenegro was aligned with Russia in Russo-Japanese War and they declared war on Japan, but they forgot to peace.